Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. What's up? Happy Thursday. This is weird. I'm typically starting to get juiced up to do a game, and I'm not. The Monday night thing is throwing me off a little bit this week. We haven't had one of these in a little while, right? I don't think we had one last year. Did we have a Monday night game? I don't think we did.
There was not a single primetime game last year, like off day, besides the one Thursday night game, which was the Bears.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Other than that, which happened early, luckily.
Mhm.
Other than that, there has not been a single primetime game. So,
Mm,
yeah, it's been a little bit for you.
it has been. So it's going to slow my roll on previewing this for another day because I haven't watched a ton of the Bengals yet because I've had time, and we're doing a spirit match tomorrow night. So I've been focused on kind of doing both. Anyway, the news is the news, which is we got the final Woj bomb yesterday. I'm out. And it is a shock to the sports media ecosystem. He got the all-time like tip, like pour the beer out, pour your 40 out for him. I saw Schefter, Passon, who else? The guy from college football, all the insiders were together. They wrote a byline together. They were on shows together as if we were having a funeral for sports media yesterday. Really. But I guess it's like it is, as far as people in the media that matter, and there aren't many of them, me included, like he's one of them. So he is one of the dying breeds. He had things you needed, and he's now decided he doesn't want to share it anymore. He wants to go do something else with his life. Amazing.
I of course unpacked this yesterday on my show, and this is where my logic has gone. Both he and Schefter, and you and I have talked about this a lot, how their reporting hasn't changed per se of breaking news, but how they say it has. Like they basically are copying and pasting what agents want them to say now, and
Yes.
it's gotten really ridiculous at certain times. And it's both of them. It's not just, Woj or Schefter. It's both of them. I think that's just the way the landscape has changed. Like agents are saying, if you want this info, you're gonna have to pour it on a little bit. And I just think this is the first one of going, I'm good. I can tap out of this. Like I don't want to keep escalating the way the agents are doing this. And also he did say he wanted to slow down. I believe him on that too. The payoff of getting the first tweet off isn't what it used to be, right? So I think it's a combination of all these things. And honestly, why not go out on top if you're Woj?
Yeah, I mean, for a week or two every year, he is the most important thing in sports media because he, in my opinion, the offseason where the players decide where they're going to dictate where they go next, and he knows all that information, is better than the first 3 months of the regular season of the NBA.
Right.
Like it's just better. Like it's more interesting, it's more exciting, it's better. And he is the gatekeeper. Him and Shams are the gatekeepers to most of it. That's a hard thing to give up. It's powerful. Like it's powerful. And that's probably the most surprising part of this whole thing. Like I love the positions I have. I, never want to let go of them. I think I have impact in certain ones of them, and that's important to me. But like he literally is the sports media for a couple of weeks, and that's an extraordinary level of power that most people do not want to ever let go of. But it does. I actually believe this is genuine. He's tired. Like he's just tired. He's tired of being on 3 different phones. He's tired of constantly like never not working. I saw Schefter, was like talking about it on some show, and he just gave this whole thing where he's like, this isn't a job you just do. You have to live this job. It's literally your entire life. And he's like describing, you're on the toilet and you're, texting people back. You're in the shower and the phone's up just in case. And then it used to just be a bit that Schefter would come on and be looking at his phone during segments. And it was kind of like, is that for show? It isn't, because he feels like he can't miss a text. And the producers, of course, love it because how many times has he actually broken news in the middle of a segment? Because he's like, I have to tell you this. I just got this. And that's the coolest thing that they could possibly have. Like that was the original power of like sports Twitter. So it's power that I think is the interesting part that I'm seeing him walk away from. Like Stephen A. Smith also has a tremendous amount of power in punditry, which is unusual these days that anybody has that power. but like, and he ain't walking away from it. Like, you have to find some other kind of, because I think he lives and breathes the power part of it. He's not going to let go of it at any time soon. But I could see one day where it's like he wakes up and he goes, and why am I doing the 6 a.m. Sports Center too? Because I've just decided to do literally I'm just going to carpet bomb all of TV. Like, you just can't get away from me. And at some point that's got to wear you down. And I think in Woj's case, it's not like he was on TV or radio constantly. I just think he was on constantly. He couldn't miss anything. And this is a slippery slope. It's like, if you kind of don't lock in like that all the time, someone will take your place. Someone else will start breaking the news. And then you become Mort, where you either work directly with that guy who's doing it and you become kind of like the emissary of the whole thing, or you got to quit because someone beats you and the producers go, but that guy's getting all the news now. So I think this was honest. He was just like, I can't take it. I don't want to do it anymore.
I think I had come to this logic too. Schefter, there's a certain player you have to stop reporting on, right? Level wise in the NFL. Like, he's not going to report on the, Commanders 53rd guy getting moved down and then someone getting called up. Woj doesn't actually have that. Like, it's every single player in the league except maybe a few, but like every single player he's reporting on, because the league is so small. There's really not a line, I guess, that he could kind of turn it off either. So he's constantly looking at all these guys. Like, I forget who he reported got a big contract, and he's like, I'm the last Woj bomb. I forget who it was. But it wasn't like this big significant player. And that was kind of me as well, of going, yeah, this guy probably actually has a tougher job than Schefter because he has to follow every single player on every single roster for the most part.
The other thing, and this is, if he regrets this, he will not get this position back. Like, so this is one of those, you got to be right about it, because someone's going to step into that void and be the person, probably Shams more than anybody, but I don't know, like, can Windhorse step up to be more of that? I don't know. There are others that could possibly do it. There might be some younger guys that look at this and go, there's an opportunity here to get something like this. But he's not going to get it back. Like, that's what this could be over. The second they get into a season and everyone gets accustomed to other people doing this, like, he's not going to be able to come back in. Like, he will still have a tremendous amount of information, and he could lob one every once in a while to show you I still got it. But you're either in this or you're out of this. Like, this is the mob, baby. And like, you're either in or you're out. And if you're out, like, then someone's going to take your spot, and you might be a made man, but you don't have the information anymore. No one's going to care what you think. So there's no coming back from it. So I hope he feels like he's right. And then when the season starts and the first big trade happens, he isn't getting real itchy, going like, oh, I made a mistake. So we'll see.
How do you feel, though, that it was a actual move to be the general manager of St. Bonaventure's men's basketball team? Like,
I don't even understand that.
Yeah, I was like, I would just retire, but I guess maybe he feels he can make an impact there. I mean, good for him if he does, but I thought, like, if you're going to slow it down, slow it all the way down. But I guess that's what he wants to do.
He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to Tahiti for about 3 years. I'm not going to watch a single game of basketball, and I'll come out of it, and he's going to look like George Karl when he went to Hawaii and looks like he's high constantly. Like, yeah, that's what if you're going to slow it down, that's a way to do it, because I think this is serious, that they want him to try to whatever degree he can help be the general manager of St. Bonaventure. I don't even know what exactly he's being asked to do that he could fulfill. Like, what? Is he going to make them a powerhouse? And how would he do that? Like,
I mean, I will say this. I think it was, I forget who I saw tweet this yesterday after he, did Woj Out, that he did donate to St. Bonaventure's NIL program in the past, because, like, you have to disclose that. And now I'm just thinking, like, is Woj going to try to, like, salary cap his way to St. Bonaventure being good? Like, it's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, I was like, I guess the other thing would be here is, they're not a power
way to lose all that money he made.
Well, I was gonna say, I guess St. Bonaventure's, it is kind of low key, so maybe this is slowing it down. Like, there's no pressure there. Like,
well, he's not Pat Riley. Like, I don't like. He doesn't walk up to the high school kids and throw the rings on the table. Like, I don't know how this.
He throws the tweets on the table.
I guess, like. What is his sell that he's like, I literally know every agent like incredibly well.
Maybe.
So
I mean,
come here. But like, how does that still beat when Kentucky offers a kid millions of dollars to play there?
right.
How does that move the needle at all?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. This did feel like I want to give back, but then aren't the fans of that program? Well, I guess nationally, no one cares. Like, who's going to care? No one's going to pay attention. The fans of that program are going to think that he's going to turn them into some kind of powerhouse, I think, but I don't know why or how he would be able to do that unless he was personally funding it, or I don't know, working with the agents to build some kind of NIL thing as a pipeline. But again, like, is it a big enough program to even warrant people getting involved that way with it? Like, I don't even know. So anyway, I wish him luck in whatever this pseudo-ish retirement is for him. Whatever it is, it's going to be like 8 million times easier in his mind.
That's right. For sure.
Until they're, 14 and 16. And then he'll find out how hard it was. And, getting that text from Kevin Durant's agent wasn't the worst thing in the world. Like, I made it so big in my head that it was terrible. But like, now that it's hard to win the Big Sky Conference or whatever it is that they're in, like, good luck, guys. Good luck.
Right.
Anyway, I want to get to one other media thing. You had sent me this yesterday. I want to show everybody this, which is Deion Sanders is digging himself a giant hole because the gig's up. Like, their team's not very good, obviously. I knew that this season would turn the way it's starting to turn the second he started being super nice to Matt Rule leading into the Nebraska game. Because that is always the sign. Here's a guy with as much bravado as anybody I've ever seen on earth, doesn't seem to care what anybody thinks, yells at everybody, talks about how great him and his kids are, and everybody's wrong about him. And then all of the sudden, when they're going into a game against Nebraska, who's not even ranked, and they're going, you know what? But I really like Matt Rule's a really good guy. I went, oh, they're going to get pasted. And he's just setting it up for everybody to hear. We're about to get pasted. And I just don't, I don't want to look stupid when we lose. And then I've been yelling at him all week. It's an old classic shell game that the people who have this kind of, it's a con game. It's the competence game. I know I'm in church, so I better say something that doesn't get me in more trouble after the fact. It's prescient to do it. But like, it's also to me, who's watched this for too long, I went, they're going to lose. They're going to lose bad. And he knows it. And that's why he's doing this right now, which means if they're losing bad to them, their season's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly.
Before you even get to what he said yesterday, they also brought up an old clip from last year when they played Nebraska. I guess because that one was in Nebraska, and there was a little kid that was on the sideline before the game, and Deion waved him over because his dad was like pointing him out or whatever. And he's wearing a Nebraska jersey, and the kid runs over, and Deion puts a hat on him. And on Colorado's website, they released this clip of like, oh, like, why did you do that? Like, he's wearing Nebraska, and he goes, oh, well, he was raised to be a Nebraska fan, but he's there to see us. And I'm like, are you guys really bringing up a clip from last year of you giving a hat? Like, to your point, you're doing this good PR stuff with Nebraska. And I'm like, where's this coming from? Because you're usually hostile towards everybody. This like buddy thing with you in Nebraska. Where's this coming from? So, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. All right, take a listen to Deion here.
When I say I genuinely love these kids, I genuinely really do. It's not about what they can do for me on the football field. It's about what I can help them with in life. Landscape has changed in football. Once upon a time, you guys never attacked college players. Now they're making more money than y'all. And some of y'all are envious and jealous about that. So you're on the attack. It was hands off a college player because he's an amateur. Remember that, guys? Now it's hands on. Go at them any kind of way you want. They're making more money than me, and I'm mad about it.
Okay. So, number one, okay. Deion, you're not making a very good argument. Okay. Number one, times have changed dramatically. And you're right. There was an unwritten rule for a long time when they're quote unquote amateurs. And they never were. But like when we played that stupid game forever that they weren't receiving money or anything or whatever, whatever. You're right. And I actually agreed with that. Do you go after 18, 19-year-olds that are playing on a scholarship but not getting millions of dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Okay, I'll hear that out. And they're young. Do we need to go at them like professionals? No, you're right. But that's not the case anymore. They are paid, some of them well. And I don't know, like, of all people to be saying this, your son posts pictures of him in like Bentleys. So I don't like, not that like that should warrant criticism, but this idea that now is then is not even remotely true. And you seem to know this. And what I think you're pushing back at is criticism of your players on your program that you hype up, talk about getting money for, like, have openly stated dictating where you want your son to play in the NFL. You've openly said that. How does that not open you up to criticism? Haven't you brought it on yourself? Like, what are you talking about?
The other side of this too is I think players have always been criticized, but it was in just a more tasteful way. There are certain writers that we know, though, attack players, whether it's college, pros, whatever. And I'd push back on Dion and say, it's not any media person's MO to knock your players. It's like there might be a 1% of writers that actually want to do that. For the most part, no one really wants to do that. So don't confuse criticism with attacking either. I think that's the other thing here. No player is perfect. You can criticize anybody for any game that they play, no matter how well they play, right? And the other reasoning that kind of just breaks this down, though, is, oh, they're making all this money. They're making more than you. You're jealous. Dion, newsflash. No one is in this business for the money. Literally nobody. Like, trust me, there would be a lot more of us if there was money involved in this.
There's a small select group of people in sports media that make a lot of money. It's a very small select group, and it gets smaller. And now, like, we're actually at a point now where if you have some level of popularity, there will be a lot of people that get fired so that they can accommodate your salary.
Yeah.
And that's not a, I'm not going after Pat McAfee or Stephen A. Smith. That's just reality. Like, look at the, like, just that's all that is. And like, I don't begrudge it. Like, I understand why they do it. So like, I'm not begrudging it or trying to knock them. And I think anybody should get whatever they can get. So like, I don't have a problem with it, but people are, at least ESPN is warranting firings in some cases, just as layoffs, and in some cases to accommodate a larger salary for a bigger personality. That's getting less and less and less and less. I always used to describe it as the middle class at ESPN is getting cut out from under it. The middle class loses their jobs once they hit a certain point in salary to accommodate the very large salaries, and then those people are replaced by younger, inexperienced, lesser known people there. That's just how they work their model. I'm not begrudging it. Like, that's how they do it. And that's what they've been doing. And it's gotten more pronounced now that they paid McAfee and Stephen A. the amount of money that they're actually paying. But like, to your point, the vast majority of people in sports media do not make this kind of money, don't make the kind of money that the players are making, the high profile ones are making in college football in years 1 or 2 of their career there. So, but I also will say this to Dion too. Nobody is jealous of that part. Like, that's the stupid part. Like, we're in and around people that make a lot more money than us constantly. Like, that's not unusual. Like, that's completely normal and commonplace now. It just is siphoned down into your sport. So if you could show me examples of college football writers that are writing things because they're just clearly jealous, like, that's what it's about. It has nothing to do with the performance of the team, or I don't know, all the bluster and attention you brought that you can't back up anymore. If you want to explain to me that it's not that, okay, I'll hear you on it. But it sounds like another excuse to me for why you're getting negative attention, when it really is you brought all the attention there. And guess what happens when you lose, or you don't live up to all the things you claim you're going to be, or you browbeat the reporters? Guess what? They might turn on you. And it has very little to do with the cars your kids are driving or the bags of money they have or any of that stuff. That's not what it's about. We cover sports. Money is part of sports. It could either be underhanded money that's handed off to people that's on a black market, or it could be on the semi up and up, which is where we are now. I think we're somewhere in the middle of that in college sports right now, that like there's people trying to figure out how to limit the way the money gets to the kids. Like it's not a free market, that's going on there. And they're still trying to figure that part out, but it's there. It's always been there. And maybe there's someone that writes out of jealousy, but I'm going with that is the vast, vast, vast majority of people. Their motivation has nothing to do with that. And it. It's just an excuse for why you're getting criticized now, and you're trying to find a way to blame the media. We've seen this before, buddy. In fact, the last 9 years in big time politics, we've seen people try to quote unquote blame the media for their issues or for anything that's going on. And it's not going to work in this case.
The other side of this too is I'd go back to Deanna and go look up who was pining for these players to be paid. It wasn't everybody, but a lot of us were going, yeah, those football and basketball players do deserve to get paid because of how much revenue is being brought in off of their backs. It was billions of dollars in both sports where all of these kids were not getting a dime from it. Or not only was it just a money thing, it was, oh, you can give them the bagel, but you can't give them peanut butter. Like, remember just how ridiculous the NCAA rules were? We were all saying, this is dumb. Something's got to change. And if it's money, that's fine. Like a majority, I would say a majority, but people were arguing for it. And so for you to come out and say, oh, you're jealous because they're making money. No, this is what a lot of us actually wanted. So you can't have it both ways that way either.
No. And, this is what's happening now in college sports is what's happened in pro sports. Like I am finding that the pricing of things has gotten in a way, and maybe I'm just sounding like an old person now, which is fine, but like just to go to a regular season, NBA game or hockey game here. And I love doing that, but it is extraordinarily expensive in my opinion. Like I think it starts at, if you want to sit anywhere near the ice or the court, at $125 a ticket. So if I wanted to do the math, I want to take my family, I got 2 kids, like do the math on that for what one night is. And that's before we buy anything in there. And the hot dog's $12. Like, it's going to become a major, major night. And that's because the business goes up, the salaries go up, CBA goes up. And really all of that money, like that they're asking from you, you're basically trying to supplement all of it along the way. And what I'm seeing now in college sports is this stuff, which is Tennessee is implementing what they're calling a 10% talent tax on their tickets moving forward. So they're basically telling their fans, like, whether you like it or not, you are going to have to kind of pay for this team, even though I'm having a hard time understanding why don't they make enough money to quote unquote pay for their team when they have a 100,000 seat stadium that is sold out every single week. Why do they need to add this tax to it when they have SEC broadcast right deals coming through to them, whatever local deals they have? How is this group suggesting to me that they don't make enough money to be competitive without forcing their students or whoever else buys these tickets to pay money to supplement the cost of the team? Like, it's actually kind of gross. Actually, it's not surprising, but it's kind of gross what's happening.
No, this is actually like one of the worst things I've seen. I think it's the last thing you should hike prices on, especially in college sports, is getting people in the door. You want to hike the beers up, the food up, I'd say go for it. That's somebody's choice whether they want to get something at a game or not. But to hike the ticket prices up is a little ridiculous. Not to mention, I don't know, isn't it the boosters that get a coach for $15 million a year, and then when they decide they want to fire him, they eat that money? Like, how much money are you even breaking in on these games with this tax or whatever? And now you're saying, oh yeah, you guys have to help out with this, when you've blatantly shown, especially in SEC school, that if you don't like the way things are going, you'll just eat the salary of something anyways. Same thing. You can't have this both ways. So are you going to give your fans a say in stuff now? You're not, but I'm just saying you can't have this both ways either.
This is like when the Angelos family said they would open the books and wouldn't open the books because why would they? Because they don't have to. Yeah. I would love to get a big time athletic director at one of these major schools to literally open their books and explain to me how your football program at a place like Tennessee or Ohio State or Florida is struggling.
Yeah.
You just show that to me. Explain to me how it is. And don't say it's to cover the cost of the field hockey team. Like, I don't believe it. Like, no, I just do not believe that. I see how many people are in your stadium. I know what your media rights deals are worth. I know what your merchandising deals, I think I know what they're worth. I know how many people are going in there and what they're average paying on that day. And I can't come up with, I don't care how much your coach costs, and I don't care how much the travel costs. I can't come up with an idea that you all are losing money on this, or even coming close to losing money on this, but you're passing it off like you're poor. It's gross, honestly. At least they're being honest, but it's gross. All the pros do is they just hike the prices up because everything goes up, and they don't announce that you're now paying for Terry McLaurin's contract. Like, it just goes up. Like, at least they're being honest about it, but it's kind of a really gross level of honesty that I can't. I'm just like, you all are not losing money. You're not anywhere near losing money. To be competitive in this sport, I get it. You need money to do that, but that's what your boosters and NIL stuff are for. The average fans have to pay for this now. That's gross. It really is.
Also, don't forget, if they're playing Appalachian State, they're paying them to come play that game there too. So like, there's clearly enough money for you to also pay for certain opponents to come that, you beat 99% of the time, but the 1% of the time you might actually lose to. Like, come on now. Come on.
Right. If somebody, right. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it just is. And Dion's being ridiculous. And but it's not surprising. Like, these are all the unintended consequences of opening this up. Like, I don't think people like thought through what was going to end up happening when they did something like this, but here we are. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Oshie Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Bram Oshie Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I didn't mention this earlier this week because the team did not make a big deal out of this, the Commanders. There is some kind of, I don't know what the word is for it, installation or something is up on the upper level that is honoring the Wetzel family, that is the family that created the old Redskins logo, the iconic Indian head logo. And as you know, and as we know, and as we've talked through, the last 6-7 months, one of the hangups that we have now currently to try to get the RFK bill through, TikTok guys, we're heading towards an election at almost the end of the year, is a senator from Montana who is standing in the way because among his constituents are this family, and they want some form of undisclosed resolution about how are they going to quote unquote honor this old logo. And I just heard a piece from Sam Fortier, who was on with Al Galdi. And so I'm just kind of taking him at his word. I want to actually ask Sam when I go out to practice today more about it, because he seems to have followed this a little closer than I have recently. And Sam said that the family wants more than what's happening right now, that the family deep down, and I know why, money, they want the logo brought back. And the second this started happening, I said one of two things are really what they want. They can claim they just want it to be honored, but it's not true. This is extraordinarily valuable IP. So they either want it back on the helmets again, and they want to receive any kind of monetary inducement that goes along with that. Or if you're going to really retire it, they want it to license for themselves. Now, I've never asked them this, but it's the only logical conclusion you can come to of the desire of what you want. And why would the senator from Montana be this interested in this? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to accuse him of anything, but that's extraordinarily valuable IP that could be in the hands of his constituents, and that could help in his fundraising. I don't know. Maybe. Like, that's a possibility that could be the case. So the problem is the NFL is not going to bring this thing back. The Commanders are not going to bring it back. And this is where I think they tried to meet them halfway, was we'll honor it. Like, we're not against honoring our past, and we're appreciative and prideful of our past, but the page is turned so much that it's not coming back. So I'm hoping that we get to some form of resolution with the senator over the family as soon as possible, because we need him to come to his senses about what's going to happen here. because he's holding up legislation that would be good for the city, good for the team, obviously, but really good for the city too, to redevelop this decrepit piece of land. And it's time that he steps out of the way, because the city leaders want it to happen. The community clearly do polling about the polling wants it to happen. Everybody wants it to happen. He's standing in the way to try to bring back prominent IP that the NFL or the team that he ought to know full well will not be bringing back ever, not in a permanent way like that. So we're at an impasse, and I don't know why the senator's still standing in the way. So I'd like to hear from him now.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of this situation is no sports league is ever going to give up any IP of any kind of past branding. Period. That's every league in America is not going to give that up. The only thing is, what's the resolution here, right? Let's start with like the extreme. The logo's not coming back, right? Like they've pretty much said that out loud. The logo and the name is not coming back, and I take them for their word on that. I think what the in-between is going to be here is, as you said, this is valuable IP. You can click on Etsy and find or Amazon and find a fake version of all of this stuff and get it for a fraction of the price. And who's profiting off of it? Not them. I think what's ultimately going to happen here is somehow the IP is going to get brought back to sell. They'll never wear it in an official capacity, but there'll be a little section in the shop, or there'll be a historic part of the Fanatics website or whatever it's going to be, because I do agree with them on that. The logo is iconic. People are clamoring for the logo. Ultimately, it's selling because Dan Quinn wears a fan shirt, and then a fake version of that shirt comes out in 50 million different styles, and I see people wearing it. Like, this is where it's going to come down to, is what I think is going to happen is they're going to bring this back, and they're going to give them a very small percentage of whatever the proceeds are, and whether that goes to their charitable, foundations, whatever like their causes were. I remember there were a few of them that Danes put out there, or whatever they want. But I think that's ultimately what the resolution is going to be. Is that something they're willing to just go with, though? I don't know. I would definitely take that, because a 0.5% of every logo shirt sold is still going to be a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
And I would take that, but I don't know what their end game is here to actually do it, because there's no way they get it. There's no way they get control of it.
No, like they're not. And I think that's what I think is. I said this from the get-go. I go, that's what this is about. Like, and I understand that they're proud of it and they created it, and they don't feel like it's racist in any way. And I don't want to relitigate my own feelings about it, because I've 8 million times over the last few years I've relitigated how I feel about the name and the logo, and so whatever. But what's done is done, and it's over. This ownership group has said very loudly, we're not bringing any of this stuff back. It's not happening. This getting in the way of them trying to get RFK, it's frustrating. It's another just piece of red tape that's going on, which is why it's always been so difficult to get RFK back. There's always something standing in the way, because the federal government has to approve it. And who would have saw this one coming? That not only would they step up and say we need to be heard and felt about this, but a senator would listen to them on that, when it's the government and big corporate leaders that ended up getting them to change the name in the first place. So like, you can't rewind all the things that you all pushed the ball rolling downhill on in the first place. Secondarily, like, I agree, they're not getting the IP, and like, you can't force a business to give up its IP to private citizens, especially if there is an ironclad deal of how that IP could be used in the first place. So if the family's upset with whatever deal the family gave with the NFL and the Redskins at the time to use it, well, that's too bad. And that happened in the 1970s. And there's no rewinding any of that. I do believe this is all about what that logo is worth on the marketplace. And I agree that the answer really here is, can the NFL just sell this stuff somewhere and give them a piece of the profits, and everybody ends up being happy? But do they think it's not worth it because they think there's a pushback to selling it? And that's the interesting question they have to answer. And I think this new ownership group is going out of its way to be like, we're not trying to drum up issues from the past. We're not trying to muddy the waters here. Like, it is the one thing that they've been very, very clear about. They said they're very proud of the organization's history, but they're not bringing this stuff back. And whenever asked, they're extremely clear about that. So I don't know what the answer is, and I hope one comes soon, but we're reaching rubber meets the road on this. The whole, we just want it honored. Guess what? It was in the stadium last week. Apparently that's not good enough. Yep, it's not good enough. Shocker. They want the IP.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it. So we need this senator to come to his senses and realize he can only do so much for his constituents. And he got them on its face what they asked for. It just to be honored. It was. It is. It's permanently in the stadium right now.
The other side of that too, though, with the whole, if they bring this back, there'd be some pushback. Well, that is two birds, one stone. If you say, hey, we've heard you loud and clear, we're going to bring this logo back for you to purchase, not for us to fold back into our portfolio of branding, but we're going to bring it back. And for those of you that think there are concerns about this of, if you still think it's racist or you think that it shouldn't be brought back, here's a percentage of the sales going towards this cause. Because I think one of the causes was like missing Native American women and children, and that's one of the charities or whatever. The team can also now come out and say, this is what it benefits now. You're not just handing us all of this money. Like, I think that's two birds, one stone situation. I just don't know if that's their actual motivation on Dane's and the family side.
Yeah.
I'm hard pressed to say they're pushing for a lot more, but I think that's where the resolution lies.
Yes. In the meantime, the list for Hall of Famers that are up for their candidacies are up, and not a surprise. London Fletcher and Brian Mitchell are back on that list. Joe Jacoby is being floated by the senior committee now because I believe he's run out of time on the normal state. There's a long list. There's a number of players like Clinton Portis and others that are on the list. Mark Schlereth, won a bunch of Super Bowls in two different franchises that have connections, obviously, to Washington. These two, though, London and B. Mitch, are the most likely if either are going to make it. There's always newcomers that come on. I really do think that Eli Manning's an interesting name this year. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? Two-time Super Bowl winner, but we went through years of, is he elite? So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. I think he will be, but I don't know. Not like his brother. I don't really know I don't know that the voters think it's obvious with him. So we'll see how that one goes.
I don't think a first ballot Hall of Famer, but you beat Tom Brady 2 times in the Super Bowl. I think you get in. And it's one of those situations. Yeah, I think it's one of those situations. You beat Brady twice, right? You beat Brady and Belichick twice in the Super Bowl era. Granted, it was those defenses that really carried things, but he made some crazy throws in both of those Super Bowls. I think you do, and you did it in New York too. Like, don't discount that. You did it in New York, so I think he ultimately gets in. To London and B. Mitch. London, I've said for years. You said it for years. He has stats that are on par with Ray Lewis. He should be in. And then with B. Mitch, maybe B. Mitch finally gets that push after Devin Hester gave him the shout out last year. I really hope that made a difference because Hester, I have a newfound respect for the way that he kind of went out of his way to say, it's not just me. There are these other iconic kick returners that deserve to get in. And I hope B. Mitch gets the push.
So do I. I think the Hester thing is real and it needs to be, I think, taken advantage of now because it's fresh in the mind. And Hester, if I was presenting for B. Mitch, one of the first things I would show is Devin Hester saying on that stage that Brian Mitchell should be in the Hall of Fame. That's number one before even going back to all the real reasons why he should be in the Hall of Fame. He's the best kick returner of all time. And if you're putting them in now, which seemed to be what you were reluctant to, if you're putting them in now, then you might as well put the GOAT in over it. If you're going to put this guy in and he was amazing, then you might as well put the GOAT in. So that would be the argument for him. With London, I cited this one in week one. Bobby Wagner has 12 straight seasons of 100-plus yard tackles. He started really well here. He had 10 in the first game against Tampa. I don't remember what he had the other day, but he's well on his way to doing it again. That would be 13. The only other player this century with more consecutive seasons with 100-plus tackles is London at 14. He's second most tackles ever. If you did the old blind resume thing, it's not even close. He'd be first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yep.
So again, he'd be one of those if I was presenting for him. This is a swing and a miss by you guys that it's taken this long. This isn't close. He is not even in statistically. He's a champion. He is one of the best linebackers at his position ever. Period. And there's no argument against that. So, but because he's not as big a personality as Ray Lewis or Dick Butkus or some of these others, maybe you just don't see him that way. But if you just go by his play, his consistency, he's won before. I don't know what you're waiting on here. This one doesn't make any sense, and hopefully it'll get rectified this year. I hope. We'll see.
Yep. Agree.
All right, let me take a quick break. Brad wants to show you spent 6:30 at Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Time to have our few minutes of TJ Oshie appreciation, who yesterday, he and the team put out a statement. If you listen to him after the season ended last year, it sounded like it was heading in this direction, that he's got chronic back issues. It's not now through the summer at a place where he can play. They are placing him on long-term IR, which means they get cap relief, right? By doing this. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do. Yep.
So that's the team part of it, which we'll get to in a minute. It is the final year of his contract. He is 38 years old. So this is it. So whether he can come back and play at all this year, he's either going to end up retiring in a year or retiring sooner, probably not sooner, because you're going to collect the money. And then that contract is off their books and they can start to, go through a different, they start the real seed changes. Backstrom's contract, now that Kuznetsov's is gone, Ovechkin eventually, this is where the real change of this organization is going to happen, when all of these very large contracts, and in some cases with players who cannot play, Backstrom and Oshie, actually get off of their books. But I do want to say something about him, and I felt this way about Backstrom too, but I really feel genuinely about him. This guy is one of the toughest players I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anybody put their body on the line consistently like he has. When he signed the contract initially, people said he'll never get through it because of the way he plays. That was some foreshadowing that was honestly true. This guy did everything. I know what kind of relationship he had with his dad. He won the Stanley Cup after he had passed, and how sad that was, how everybody kind of rallied around him. He is maybe among my 5 favorite players of all time to ever put this uniform on. I just totally have such a heavy appreciation for what he brought to the franchise, the way he played, his skill, obviously. It was so easy to root for him. So if this is it, and it sounds like it may be it, albeit we're going to have to live with a year of him saying he might try to come back even though he can't because he's got to collect the money, then that was a hell of a career, and congratulations. And thank you for doing a lot of it in this uniform, and thank you for helping us bring a Stanley Cup here, because he's a big part of all of that. In fact, you could even maybe argue, you'd know this better than I do, you could even argue maybe he's got a little more of the heart and soul of the whole thing at that time when they were winning big, than even maybe more than Ovechkin at the time.
He was truly, you've hit all the right notes here, but he was truly kind of a missing piece of this team. Those early Ovechkin teams, it was always what I like to reference. They didn't have enough sandpaper, right? They didn't have enough toughness or kind of heart and soul. They would show up, score a lot of goals, the playoffs would start, and it would dry up, and it got kind of really, really rough. And then, they make that trade. And I don't know if there you go. They make that trade where it's Troy Brouwer who needed a change of scenery, and Oshie also needed a change of scenery from St. Louis. And I remember the day that trade happened, it was literally in the middle of the summer. And I thought, oh my gosh, if Oshie likes it here, he's going to be a completely different player. And he was the heart and soul. The when they win the cup, you referenced it. He talks with his dad and, mentions, he's going to remember this because he was going through Alzheimer's and he was starting to forget some things. And then, when his dad did pass away, that was the game where he scores a hat trick, the day after it happens. And I think, though, what epitomizes Oshie is you hit it on the head. The guy was smaller than you think, but played like he was 300 pounds, 6'5". And yet when he was off the ice, he's literally one of the nicest human beings you've ever met. Every single person that's run into Oshie or met him knows he's a genuinely just nice human being. And it's rare to get a guy like that plays that hard. And then when it's off the ice, he just turns it off. And heart and soul is really the way you describe him. I don't think his number gets retired here, but I think he's a Ring of Fame guy. Absolutely, for sure. But
Okay. All right. Yeah. You putting him in the Ring of Fame, no doubt.
Yeah, of course. And so his legacy is always going to be cemented here. And I hope he sticks around here too. I know he and his family, they rotate between here and Minnesota, but I hope they stay here and he's a part of the community, because I think that's the type of guy that you keep around to really kind of keep the fan base engaged and do some community events and stuff like that. He's genuinely, I say this for real, he's genuinely one of the nicest human beings. And so, for him to have to go through this, it's just a part of the process. I don't foresee him coming back, but I mean, he's always got a spot in the organization for sure. He's one of the best guys.
I talk about this all the time. If you give your best effort, I'll root for you forever, and win or lose, whatever. And he's one of those people. he literally gave his body to the sport, gave his body to the uniform. He only knew how to play one way, which is why his wife didn't want him to play anymore.
Yeah,
And
right.
It's like that I'll tell you everything you need to know. Like, he can't go in and not be him. And he knows that. And he did it until his body broke down. And I'm appreciative of him. He's one of my favorites that's ever put the uniform on. He really just an outstanding player. Real quickly, I like the black jerseys coming back. They're slowly dripping out because it's the 50th anniversary, all the different uniform looks they're going to do. They have yet to show the original. They're going to wear that, right? Because it's classic. It's amazing. You're going to wear that on your 50th anniversary, right, Zach? Like, you're going to do that, right? You're going to announce it on Saliza's show? Like, when are you going to announce this?
I swear, if they announce it on Saliza's show, I'll be shocked. But there's two little hints here that I have to think it's coming. They haven't announced it, but there's one or two little hints here. One, the Screaming Eagle one was easy to reintroduce. It's only 2 years old. It was only away for a year, right? So it was in the folder. And by the way, this is way inside baseball. Fanatics has the new jerseys, but nothing has changed. It's the same manufacturers. It's the same jersey materials. They literally just took the factories over from Adidas. So nothing changes here. But go look at what dates they're wearing those Screaming Eagle jerseys. And they're only wearing them for like 6 or 7 games, something like that. That's not enough for me to say that's going to be your full-time third. As in, there's enough room for another jersey to be added. And one of the dates they are not wearing them is they're playing They're playing the Penguins on a Friday night in November.
Oh.
They're not wearing the Screaming Eagle jersey that night. My guess is the original is got to be worn that Friday night against Pittsburgh. If it's not, then I don't know what we're doing here. But I'm just saying that was a date on the calendar that I've circled. If something's going to get worn, that's one of them. And because there isn't something there yet, maybe they wear the white jerseys and you let the Penguins wear the black jerseys at home, like old school style. That's what I would love to see.
Yeah, old school style.
I would love to see that, but I would have hoped to see some kind of leak by now, and I've seen nothing of it. I really hope they don't drop the ball and at least don't wear them for at least a game or something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the old jerseys with the white and let the Penguins wear the black. That'd be cool. What I saw this past weekend, real quickly, because I know I got to go. The gold pants is the best look of this new uniform, by the way. Like that, I even mentioned it. I go, the color palette today. The Giants wearing their old schooly white on white uniforms, Washington wearing the burgundy with the gold pants. Honestly, of this new look, I thought it was the best one they have. And I actually hope they pull. I know they're only pulling it out a couple times this year, but I have a feeling we ought to start doing this regularly because I thought it was their best look that I've seen them in with the new uniforms. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bram Show, ESPN 630 Sports.